Geshe Tsultim Gyeltsen Tenzin Dorjee
Let us cultivate the altruistic motivation, seeking complete enlightenment for the sake of liberating infinite, kind, mother sentient beings. And with that kind of altruistic motivation, we call bodhicitta motivation, that we should all participate in this teaching.
That Kadina, and Kulon Jusi, any Kadina, and Tam Dosini, Nita Rehi, Chukadihene, Tendusini, Mahi, the K Chambers.
As you have, witnessed this very moment, before giving spiritual teaching, a lama or teacher would take time to explain the importance of cultivating altruistic motivation or bodhicitta motivation, and also guide us to cultivate that kind of motivation within our own mind.
Tati, Kuno Jay, Loming when Jamba Maris, Lama the Lomaninga, Kuno the Average Googers, Laming when Kuno the Average Googers.
When I explain the need to cultivate the altruistic motivation, of course, I mean both teacher and students need to do that. And as I often remind you, that as I speak to you, I include myself, if you will, in the audience, as much as I'm telling you the need to cultivate altruistic motivation, that I also need to do the same thing. A great Indian realized scholar, Acharya Vasubandhu, in his Treasury of Knowledge, or Abhidhamma Kosh, states very clearly, and Geshe quoted the stanza from his memory, which basically states that when one, in this case the one refers to teacher or guru, makes a gift of Dharma, because teaching is also a form of generosity, because this is the gift of spiritual discourses teachers giving us. he or she should do so without diluted motivation, or the motivation should not be contaminated by negative afflictive emotions. So basically what we are talking about here is that when a teacher gives spiritual teaching, his or her motivation should not be, contaminated or diluted by any of the 8 worldly concerns. And so that also tells us the importance of motivation, cultivating proper motivation, on the part of a spiritual teacher. Relatedly, I would also like to remind you that it's not what kind of qualifications, if you will, qualities that one should have to be a spiritual teacher or a guru. Those qualifications are very clearly laid out in authentic treatises such as Lamrim. Lamrim is a Tibetan term which means stages of the path. So there's a whole genre in Tibetan Buddhism called Lamrim, stages of the path, and in those treatises or the texts you can find the qualifications of a spiritual guru. Just as spiritual teachers or the gurus or lamas need to cultivate proper motivation to give teachings, and the best kind of motivation is what we call the altruistic motivation or bodhicitta motivation. In the same text, such as Lamrim, we also find explanation with regard to how we as disciples or students need to cultivate proper motivation from our side. And as it is laid out there, that as listeners to teaching, as students or disciples, we should not have some kind of ulterior motives or worldly attitudes to participate in the teaching, such as, okay, I want to learn a great deal, so then I will be expert someday, then I have a big name, and then I have a large following, and then maybe I get rich somehow, so all of the above. So if we have any of those motivations, then our motivation is contaminated, it got worldly, it's not spiritual, and that's not right.
So I thought it. That they told on the Tangaran Sabaton things. Churning Goyata, Church Hegoyata, Church Hebatsam as in Yamsale Goyaka, Goba the Karimita, never the Takish.
As I often remind all of ourselves, and especially to those who are new to this kind of spirituality or teaching, that often we should reflect on the reasons why we need a spiritual education or Dharma education, and why we need to cultivate spirituality within our mind, which is called practice. So in other words, why do we need to study and practice Dharma, spirituality? So it's very important for us to consider the purpose of doing that in our everyday life.
That one of the she loved you some of the Tamato. And so she Yamson Lanja in Basam Matuna Yagoya Marasli.
So if the reason why we participate in any spiritual teaching, now here we are talking about what we call Buddhism or Buddha Dharma, and it consists of different kinds of discourse, if you will. That's what we call sutra discourses. And then there are esoteric discourses or tantra or vajrayana discourses. Whatever the case may be, if we participate in any of those teachings, just to get some kind of blessings, because we heard so much about blessings, so I want blessings anyway. So I go to teaching to get blessings. Then I think that's really not a good enough motivation to participate in teaching.
So that is the church rang church turn sheba some Magaba Seneta, rang the Yamsonata, Kitchen Chagas.
So we should have, if you will, a better motivation than that, or deeper motivation, which is that we want to learn about spirituality or Dharma. So which means we want to go through the spiritual education, giving teaching or listening to teaching is part of that. But then again, why we are listening to teaching is so that we are able to put it into practice. Okay? So we should have that kind of a motivation, not that we want to learn, so sort of accumulate some kind of a knowledge about Dharma. You see, so that becomes more like intellectual thing, not that we want to undermine the intellectual aspect of the teaching, but if we just only learn about something and then never put it into practice, well, it doesn't seem to work in this case, because in order to get the real benefit of the teaching, we need to put it into practice.
So Tayang Yamne says the Yamne say at the current Sena Chug Tony Tan Gidiki Palan is Shavate. This is not Diwari, Migari. This is not Gavari. And those in the language those and Papangu those long dog need ma they have any rank that Takaran share than Yamne Grace.
So what does practicing Dharma or cultivating Dharma mean? Sometimes it might sound very esoteric and high-sounding thing, and then you say, "Oh my gosh, now what is that? What do I need to do?" In a very basic sense, practice means that as we go through spiritual education, Dharma teaches us what are the things we should not do. We should get rid of. In other words, the negativities that we shouldn't do. What are the negativities? And these are what we call the objects of abandonment we need to get rid of. Okay? So as we learn about those things, then we make efforts not to do negativities, but if we have done something, we try to purify ourselves of those negativities. So that is a practice. Dharma also teaches us what are the things that we should do. We call positive actions or virtuous actions. And so these are called the objects of adoption or cultivation. So what are the things we need to cultivate? So as we pursue that consists of practicing Dharma.
So that's also Marazo Changmaloke. Kundi Yomoshi Chetu Tata, Naja Chewing but the Dosini. About the time, Shigo, the Sheba Shia Chedo, and Marazo Chewing, Kinyi, the Shia Chidoris.
Broadly stated, we can look at Dharma, from two different perspectives. We think in terms of Dharma as phenomena, okay? And phenomena consists of two dimensions or two sides, if you will. There is what we call the afflicted side of phenomena, in Tibetan called Kunin Nyurmongcho, is the deluded side of the phenomena, afflicted side of the phenomena. And then there is what we call the enlightened side of the phenomena or liberated side of the phenomena. We call it Namjang Cho. So if we categorize Dharma into those two types of two dimensions, and then learn about those things, then those are the things as we learn we need to put into practice.
So rang kwe nyamsa lengba pote nanja shoke nanja chole pa dawne nakwe shoje pa dawne ane kape sho marche nyomo shoke nyomo shoje nakwe shoje pa dawne ane nanja sho de anda sosu de tola ane rogu cha nanja sho yugu.
So practice, in other words, in this regard means that we as practitioners or spiritual seekers, if you will, that we try to distance ourselves from what is called afflicted side of phenomena, or maybe for simplicity's sake, let's call negative phenomena, and we try to develop affinity with enlightened side of phenomena, or the positive phenomena.
Sometimes Kanak lane mute do that lane win a Kanak lane is Nakweleta, and gave a sand of Treta. And then around pay Lambing Pandus and Guyaxin, Nakwe for the Padone, Kawe show that Lamley and you at that, the Maranzo Taku changes in the social in the Tony Kikuris.
From the perspective of a law of karma, so basically we are talking about two types of karma here: negative or non-virtuous karma, which are the things we should not do and get rid of, and we should cultivate or pursue or do the positive karma or the wholesome actions.
That results in that Kabe show the Karinata, Tobjet in the Aware, deal with the Kibu Yungris and Tunzumato, and Nawe showed and Dux and Miki Lane to Seven, Miawala Shig, Tundrushing, Dalashing, Tunzuki, Dunga continue something Yamar Tana, the Kago was just the Renangiamars, thing about the Shagurs.
So that again, if you wonder why we should care about those guidelines, karmic, if you will, that we should not do the negative karmas, but we should do the positive karmas. Why, if you ask? Well, basically, all of us are same in that we want the best of everything. We want happiness, we want peace, we want success, we want prosperity. So all these things we want, really, they come from what we call positive karmic actions or wholesome karmic actions. All the things we do not want, misery, suffering, pain, problems, they arise from negative karmas or the unwholesome actions. So therefore, we must not do the unwholesome actions. And so when we go a little more deeply into this matter, in some sense maybe we might be considering these things, but at another level we are really not so serious about considering these matters, because if you go deep down, negative karmic actions, they precipitate rebirth in a bad migrations, in the miseries like hells, hungry ghosts, where we really don't want to be, And relatively speaking, the suffering there is just just immeasurable compared to whatever sufferings we have in the human world. And so those are the issues we need to really consider and think about.
So that Diduke just Namindu Takarinate, Chewing Yanation Tate on the Chigo or Sonsa, Chew Yanation Kitchen, Chew Yanation Dutz and that Chew. See at the time, Jachimukiraris, Yena Tundor Dunita, Lil Havaju to Shavina, Yena Nepirit Samal Papang, Yena Pembatan, that David Ricandicinduna, Susi Dutabajishina, that's the count of the Shavina, and they chill Laneta that those race.
Dharma or Buddhism in this case is very vast and profound. I mean, there are so many things to learn about, and so many things to put into practice. In a sense, it's kind of a very overwhelming in some sense. But then from another point of view, what we really are basically talking about are two things, which could be simply put as, don't hurt others or harm others, but help others. Okay? So in a very simple sense, what we are saying is, we in our everyday life, see that we do not hurt anybody, including ourselves. Okay? And in addition to that, if we could help others, benefiting others, being altruistic, that we should do. If we couldn't help others, at least see that we are not a troublemaker. We don't cause troubles to others. And at a very deep level, the practice that we are talking about, we need to every day, it really comes down to, working with our mind. We need to protect our mind.
가르쳐 다 펜버리다 근데 줘야 간에 이게 펜버리 상황이 거기도나 다때 예수는 더베지 누세고 그래서
So what is involved in protecting our mind, what does that really mean, is, for example, that when any negative thoughts arise in our mind, maybe that is the harmful intention, some kind of a malicious intention that I want to say something that will hurt someone, or I'll do something physically, that will harm someone, then as those thoughts arise in our mind, we should try to work with them and try to calm down those attitudes, negative attitudes. Okay, that's how we protect our mind from those negativities within our mind. But on the other hand, if any positive, attitudes or thoughts arise, such as, you just feel like, okay, I really, appreciate, others and their kindnesses, and I want to do something for them. See, if any sort of benevolent or some, beneficial attitude arises in our mind, then, we see that if we could really carry that out in action, put it into practice.
다 당번에 기다그 릴하고 기다 연구 말했어. 칼리 커버했어. 이나야 림베 그 소수 펜도스 셈리자니 다 노트인데 다 셈리자니 또 야고지 등도신다 딱지 야고시니 란다 셈들 딱지 야고시긴 다 신디 가르 메게 슐런도 다 게슐런도 딱지 야고시긴 쌈니 근데 이게 뭐다 삼바지 뒤다는 동기이나 근데 야대는도 그래서
I don't mean to sound that what I just explained may sound too simple and maybe easy to practice. It is not, okay? Because that involves a lot of self-examination and looking within one's own mind. And it involves a lot of investigating our state of mind. So as we look at our own mind in everyday life, if we see that our mind is being influenced by or about to be influenced by any kind of negativity, okay, then we need to really act right away and try to stop that, cut the link, if you will, between our mind and that negativity. So that's not an easy thing to do, okay. So if there's any kind of positive attitude comes up, which could be very rare in our case, or we need to cultivate positive attitude so that we are able to we let the positive states of minds to influence us, to guide us, so that we, we benefit others. So these things really need a lot of, thinking, contemplation, disciplining mind, training of the mind. So in that sense, not easy. It's not one of those things, it just comes up randomly, that could happen, but not much to rely upon. So we really need to make efforts to look within our own mind and work with it.
장가란 정말로 이 당보 달리 당보 주동기서 주신기 쪽에 아니 당보는 배 터자도 터버 기부지다. 레버도 주주빈 레버도 터도 터야다. 터도 터야가 나니야 다 배는 초도 줘봐. 배 저거 유행학 상동 이 동시에 말했어. 꼭 갈래가 렘베 도고 렘베 마시나 당보는 도시 터버 기부지 유행학 상동 동시 도 샤비나 소수배 아니 그래서다 로단 다와 마시면 그때 마시면 배신이 빈주를 뭐 마시네 기 리조트 같은 게 처음用삼네 삼바시면 안데 그 야야가 니가 전부 열었대.
So another thing I want to really emphasize here is that we need to adopt, if you will, long-term perspective. Okay, we must not have a great expectations or hopes. As you heard Geshe use the word, results. So we should not expect big outcomes, from our practice as soon as we start doing some practice. If we have been in practice for a while, we think, okay, now something great things should happen, Or that, right from the beginning, we just kind of are so ambitious, which seems to be nice from some other point of view, that I want that highest level result, well, which is not going to come soon anyway. And then we said, okay, this is not working it out. And so what we really need to do is we have to have patience, perseverance, and determination to pursue practice. Because the practice involves, in some way, a gradual process. We have to go through the process and progress along the stages and the path towards our spiritual goals. So that's very important to keep in mind. Otherwise, we might be sort of a super duper in our practice for a short while, and then we break down, because nothing really seems to be happening that soon.
So that any Nabasanji which you drink in the Tasavina, Tambo in the conjunction, any Shandroya with Shia, take care of shit. Conjunction Shandroya with Kevishi. That Shandro Tolata, later, Jabo, Lake Anake, that lay Kaniji, Lake Anaki Savian, they any Jabo, they do join the Kevisha. That in the toilet, they and very ambition and Drogo.
So what do I mean by going through a gradual process, is that, as Buddhist practitioners, if one considers as a Buddhist practitioner, then we started from a very basic foundation level, which is going for refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, completely enlightened beings, their spiritual discourses, and spiritual members of spiritual community. So we go for refuge in them, called the three jewels or three ratnas in Sanskrit. And then as a part of that, we also need to follow the law of karma to conduct our life, everyday life. Okay? And as I was explaining to you before, then what are the negative karmas that we should not do, and what are the positive karmas that we should do? Because after all, these different types of karma produce different results. Okay? Positive karmas produce positive results that we want, and negative karmas produce unwanted results. And so therefore we have to understand how these karmic actions bring different results.
Le Kanani Botes, Tarangi, she is a Geshes Dharma. So, near the Tawota, that the Tommy Pinget and Zuke, send the Hansa Mato, show Shaman Geshes down to a Kayamari. Yen I rang the stock with Lake Gawat Megi or Karina T, rang Kabak live in the thing and the Shulaving Solsa, gave Lay Yabusa on the tea, David Devate, rang about the Junguari. Tana rang Megi, members of Sayana, they late. Ani rang nyamde shole ni tin jebute nagi kilamini ta dunghe ta mede riktunzo jungu arrest kanang do.
As Geshe quoted the lines of Rinpoche or Lama Tsongkhapa, sitting over there in the middle, and so in his words, that negative and positive karmas follow us, you see, in this life as well as in our future lives. Okay? And so we should develop conviction in the infallible working of law of karma. And with that kind of a conviction, we should learn to respect the law of karma in the sense that we do not undermine even what might appear to be insignificant negative karma. We might think, okay, so what's the big deal about that? Okay, I'll do it. No. When we have that deep respect, we are not going to undermine the significance of karma. And the same thing with the positive too. We don't say, oh, this is just a little positive thing, so who cares about that? As if I'm going to do something big one. Which anyway, there's a big question mark there. We develop this conviction in the law of karma, and conduct our life accordingly, so that's very important. Because after all, in this life, we are very, very fortunate that we have, very loving and caring family members, or that we have, great friends. But after all, our relationships, however great they are, when the time comes for any of us to say goodbye, while nobody can follow us, okay, what really follows us into the next life, future life, is whatever good and bad karmas that we ourselves have accumulated. So once we have accumulated karmas, both good and bad, these karmas produce different results which we ourselves have to go through. Okay, we are not talking about, the third person. We are really talking about the first person, ourselves. I have accumulated good and bad karmas which will follow me into the next life, and I am the one who will experience these things. And now my families and great friends are not with me because they couldn't be. Okay, so this is what we are talking about. So in all of these things, where do I come into the picture, right? I am the agent. See, I'm responsible for my karmic actions.
No, that did any shocking around. So that sour pinkies and Samalo, Madame Samalo, Cheto. That tension on the shinking in that tension on that. I'm making it in the Saba, those in a pair kidding a few.
So these few things which I have shared this morning, many of you already know these things, in which case this should serve as a reminder for you. You may not have learned anything new, but you may have not thought about these issues, So this is a reminder for you, but others who are new to this kind of teaching, so then you have learned something new. So anyway, my motivation is that talking about these things is to benefit both self and others.
No. That can see some good time.
No, okay.
I show his. That Tango he members, Yende Mimper Minipes, Dula Jumpers. Ta Carizana Rangi any Yendo Shabala and the Yantapando Shata, Yende Mimperseta, Muni Tonigata, Mimper Shavalata, Yist, Muni Tony Duba Shavalata, Nuhite. Tango yes, he being hit that and they could tango he go rest. The member and the Yantapa do to my race cannon.
No. May Ben do some says.
I think that things any so any that Yende told my Rango Duvel and Yanisha of the ocean Yapundustan.
Now we are going back to where we left off in this wonderful text called Miscellaneous advices from great Kadampa Geshes. And here, now the Adisha tells us that if we want to really benefit sentient beings, what we also need is clairvoyances, especially that all types of clairvoyance, but the one to be able to read others' mind. Right? If we can read somebody's mind, then we will be able to really fulfill the wishes of those other people. Okay? So in that regard, clairvoyance seems to be a very important thing, to be able to truly be able to benefit others just the way they want. But without that kind of a power, clairvoyance is, it will be rather hard for us to benefit others just the way they want us to benefit them. Okay? And so in this situation, what seems to be more important for us as individuals is first we should focus on our own practice. Rather than rushing to benefit others, we should work on ourselves and make spiritual development within ourselves.
And then I jog into the thing, get you drama, Taban Sondo, Ane, no heat that Randish, Yindish begins on Mark Kepata. Nobody here, that is Sink about no heat. That is Mark Kepata. Not to only Yindi to be in line is Canando.
The first Dalai Lama, Gyaltsen Kindundu, in his praise to Aratara, talks about how some of the things we need to be able to really work for and benefit others, and that would include Makya means you have a great communication skills to be able to really communicate to the people, connect with people, and the word if we translate it's called pleasant speech. What does that mean, really, pleasant speech? Being just a sweet mouth, not that much, but it's a really great communication skills to be able to connect with others. And also be able to read others' mind. That's where the clairvoyance comes here, So if we have those things, then we will be in a much better positions to benefit and benefit others.
Tingo Zerta, Rondo Dul Naim Reiki, Yendo Bagidula Yoata, Shentan Nuiki, Monkey Zapa Sauce. Yende should be general song.
So in his praise, he said that, may I never work for my selfish motives, but always be dedicated to benefit other sentient beings. And to be able to do so, may I be able to have, great communication skills and clairvoyances, to do that.
monkey zeba sauce. Zeba the damage Google.
And also another thing included is the patience, because one needs a great amount of patience to be able to work with others and benefit others.
Lama consult in Kawai.
So if Lama is a short temper, then it's really going to be a tough time, to be able to benefit others.
Like me. Ranju Matupa, Yinju Matubis. That Rang Jud Alin Hintambu Tuish.
Jerambuche or Manjushri Lama Tsongkhapa also states in his great exposition of the stages of path to enlightenment. That's a whole mouthful to say, but in Tibetan it's called, Great Lamrim Shemo. So in that he really, states, as we talked about this, I think 2 weeks ago, until one subdues one's own mind first, there's no way to subdue or discipline others' mind. Okay, so that means, first we need to work with our own mind. So if our own mind is very unruly, unsubdued, and crazy, but then we talk about, I want to, subdue others' mind and discipline, that's not going to work.
That
Well, maybe it's very hard to find these days, someone who is completely subdued his or her mind, Maybe that's very hard to find, a very rare thing in this world. But having said that, someone who is really honestly making efforts and to a certain extent he subdues his or her mind, and at least being very sincere in doing that, and then maybe helping others, that would be fine. So if someone has subdued his or her mind 60%, maybe that's all right. Geshe says, I only have 25% of that. So if somebody is wondering how much I have, so there's the statistics.
Okay. That you better that. And stuck by northern Yanis, drawing apes. I do see. Ali rang any sage that tin doesn't the gunlet. Be sage northern to any. You go yammer, carry a yard in Doguris. Drawing apes that the yard in Dogu the Nebresta. Test me yammer in Neparis. There are sons, knowledge share in Digwa muscles. No side of kid, Digwa muscles.
Next, Great Adisha advises us that whatever amount of wealth or resources that we have accumulated in this life, there will be a day for sure that we cannot take any of them with us and we have to leave. So therefore, we should not accumulate negativities or negative karma for the sake of wealth. Okay. So as we really pay attention to this, even the wording says that it is for sure that one day we have to leave things behind. Okay, there's no doubt about it. We don't have to doubt or suspect about that. Is that really true or not? I need to do research or something. No, that's true. All true. And so if that is the case, if we can't take the wealth we have accumulated with great effort and hardships and all the headaches, then if we have accumulated so much negativities for that sake, then those negativities will follow us. Okay, so we better not create negativities for the sake of wealth.
So that knowledge chip the dikwa masas karesana rang nor longsho yang che to ani the luji megeva sum majis ani naga megeva yodan majis ani yijin megeva sumbo tenzo tenzo ani rang longsho che to tenzo da dikwa masas.
So what does it really mean? Don't do negativities for the sake of wealth. What it really means is that we must not indulge in the three negativities of body or physical actions, and four negativities of the speech or verbal actions, and three negativities of the mind. Basically, we must not indulge in the 10 negative actions of body, speech, and mind in order to accumulate wealth.
No, that's anyway. I'm just saying that the big person show your maris and the same was. No, think money race. No, big person show your maris.
Tibetans in the sort of regular, conversations with each other, we use certain expression like, it's not, worth to do this negativity for that sake. That's what we're talking about. And it's really not worth to create a lot of negativities for the sake of, becoming rich.
No, that in this one. Longsho in the last. No. Himbo mapes, Jimba, Yunji Jamba Tons, Longsho Mambo Shinada, Longsho Mambo Yunata, Telly, Gorkoni, Tele Yingni, Longsho Mambo Yubatin, and Yingni, Ane Debatleta, Nimbo Yamaris Canary, the Nimbo mapes. And Karisha was an owner, that Roland Longsho Mambo Yuna, Ane Jimbe Yunji Jen, Ane. Yunji Jamba Tons, Jimba Tons Canada.
Next, Great Adisha tells us that if our life is being distracted by wealth or resources, then we have made our life meaningless or life without essence. So instead what we should do is, if we have resources or we have wealth, then we should practice generosity. We should make use of our resources to benefit others.
Generous data. Jimba Toya, Jimba said the Kimi, the Rani Marty Guamaris. When the control chopper paid to the Jimba regulars, Ya control Chabata, Mang and only Jimba and Tangan Kajulioris, Lucy.
When we talk about Chinba, which in Sanskrit is called Dan, or generosity or giving, it should be understood as like, even if we make offerings to the 3 jewels, that is also a form of generosity practice. Okay, generosity here does not or should not mean only to mean like, okay, if we give to the poor and needy. Now that is a generosity. But if we make offerings to, say, Buddhas or the holy beings or others, as if that is not a generosity. So generosity could go in, either of those directions.
That's Jimba Toya, COVID to Jimba, Tatani Mambo, that's Jimba Tonsu till Mandra Mambo Chicalarun, Kana, those my Pythagoras.
There's so much information, about this particular practice, generosity. What does it really mean? How to practice it? When is a good time to, give? What kind? There's so much information on this in the Lamrim. So if you go back and read your Lamrim text, so you will refresh your mind or learn more about different forms of generosity and when to give, who to give, what not to give, and all those things. I'll take a moment to talk a little bit about generosity. We can talk about generosity in the sense of that which is pure and that which is impure. One form is kind of a pure form of generosity, the other is the impure form. What does generosity or dan really mean in a nutshell, if you ask? What it really means is that wish to give. It's a state of mind, okay? And that means in our heart and mind, we have to let go whatever we are giving. Okay, there should not be grasping at, attached to what we are giving. So therefore, the generosity is defined in terms of a state of mind. It is the wish to give. It's letting go. So if in our mind we really truly don't wish to give, but we give something anyway, but we're still attached to it, we're just kind of holding on to it, in which case, yeah, it is a kind of a generosity, but it's what we call impure generosity. It's a contaminated form. But if motivated by, say, great love, great compassion, or Mahametri, Mahakaruna, or even like a pure faith or appreciation of Buddha's qualities, and out of such motivation or state of mind, if we give, then that kind of giving or generosity is called pure generosity.
If
we have accumulated or we have obtained something out of what we call 5 wrong means of livelihood. The Tibetan term is loksonga. There are 5 of them, 5 wrong ways to get something. Okay? So if we have something to give, but what we got is obtained through one of the 5 wrong means of livelihood, or 2 of them, whatever the case may be, but then we make that offering to Buddhas, or we maybe give that to the poor and needy, but that generosity becomes impure generosity, because the way we got the thing, there was a problem, issue there. So also, if we kind of by force take what belongs to somebody else, and then we kind of try to act generous and give it to somebody else, well, that's also not the right way to practice generosity. Or if, we said, okay, something belongs to others, but somehow we, practice generosity with what belongs to others, but that becomes an impure generosity. Okay. So there are a lot of things. My point here is not that we don't have time to talk about every side of the generosity here, but there are so many things to learn about. And if we make the efforts and study those things, I think we are intelligent, to learn about those things and so put those things into practice to the extent possible. We need to sort of contemplate all the things we have learned, because the contemplation, it brings clarity of thoughts. It reinforces our understanding. First, sometimes, we're very intelligent, we learn about so many things, but then we never contemplate those things. And after a while, as Geshe was trying to demonstrate, first it seems like, we have learned so much, then slowly it just kind of started to dwindle, and then it started to disappear and evaporate. There's nothing left now. You see, so contemplation and thinking is very important. But sometimes what we learn is only one thing, and a very limited one, but as we tackle that topic or the issue, from many different sides and perspectives, and we contemplate and investigate that one phenomenon, then slowly we see so many sides of that phenomena. As Geshe was trying to demonstrate, it's like that blossoming of the flower, blooming of the flower is just now started to expand. Our knowledge started to expand from that one knowledge. Of course, all the things I'm talking about here are, based upon what we need to do with our spiritual knowledge and topic. I'm not talking about worldly subjects or anything like that.
Tal Norosana Nimbo Yamarasing and you making that you love in the conditions. Jimmy King, you love in the conditions.
I think Geshe wants to ask you this. Let's say we meet someone who has no interest in Dharma or has no knowledge of Dharma. So we tell that person, you know what? There is no essence in accumulating wealth. How would that person receive that information? What do you think? You say, like, you know what? It's useless, you know. Just you're wasting your time. There's no essence to that, and so how would that person react or even receive that information?
That it.
So if you lose that, how to say, the deep spiritual sense and the context, you know, so out of context, if we make such statement somewhere, or somebody who does not have that kind of context, then it will be really hard to understand, and it makes no sense in some sense.
No, Sendela Penzevo, that Zes Mikanga Yidomas, Zes the young Chilogo Pawat, Yabutan, Zotamusili Marda. Only Sender Zes, Mikanga Yidon. And this Shamaya and the Davis, Tadu Trim Nanda Sumse. Rang the Trim number of Sumbaina, and it Sendela Mikanga Yidon, Shava Shamanata, then returns out of the Niki, that you are Escana, the younger Escana.
Next, great artist advises us that if we want to be, first I'm literally translating here and then I'll translate the commentary given on that. If we want to be beautiful in this life and also have a well-being in our next life, then we should always practice pure ethics or morality, shila in Sanskrit. Now, what does that really mean? Beautiful in this life. Well, here the beauty should be understood in terms of how, you know, maybe everybody likes you. That's the sort of a, maybe you don't have the beauty skin, you know, we are not talking about beautiful skin or the tone of the skin. We're talking about how, you know, some people are there that everybody sees that person somehow likes, you know, being attracted by that person. That sense of appealing, you know. So that's kind of beauty we are talking about here, not a skin tone or anything, skin color. No.
Sender Zehins, Sendela Kange Yidon, that me Kange and the same draw to same draw. And then show Shamala Dendo Togres, string about our sona.
So if maybe perhaps the better way to render this would be if we want others to find us attractive. Attractive can be based on many other, you know, dimensions and criteria. It doesn't have to be skin color, right? And also we want to have good rebirth in the next life. Then we should abide by, or we should observe pure ethics. So now what does it really mean? Observe or abide by pure ethics, shila. Again, shila or ethics or Tsultim in Tibetan is defined in terms of a state of mind. Literally translated, it is called the mind to protect. In other words, you see, it's like guarding our own mind. We don't want our mind to follow the wrong actions. You know, so again, ethics is a state of mind.
Domba sung sing do domba sung sing is no domba tetan geoki meji sambi sambati yorba dele domba sung sing is.
And so when we talk about observing vows, right, or certain rules, if you will, what we're basically talking about is we do not transgress our vows. You know, which means we protect our mind in a way that we don't break our vows.
Yes. So that Tsultim Sungje Mekpena Mag Domba Tan, and the Changi Sebi Domba, Rajung Domba Menkina, that Sama look and the Megichabung Tsultim Sungu.
In Buddhism, there are many different types and levels of ethics that an individual practitioner can observe. At the very basic foundation level, which applies to one and all who are interested in, I think, spirituality, is what we call the ethics of abandoning 10 negative actions of body, speech, and mind, refraining from the 10 negative actions of body, speech, and mind. Now, that is the ethics is a very basic one, which applies to all, whether we are monastics or lay people, it doesn't matter. But then, in addition to that, those who have taken the monastic ordinations as monks and nuns, now they have what we call pati moksha or pati mokha, Pali or Sanskrit, whichever way you want to go, vows to keep, which is translated as individual emancipation vows. So they have those vows to keep, which lay people don't. Now, in addition to that, monks and nuns might take the bodhisattva vows, or the lay practitioners might take bodhisattva vows. Then those are bodhisattva ethics. In addition to that, monks and lay practitioners might take tantric vows or vajrayana ethics. Okay, so as you can see, there are many different levels of ethics that one could access and one could put into practice.
No.
No. So here the emphasis is on the purity, pure ethics. That means we really try to keep our ethics intact.
Yes, that anyway. Just at the day that I does, so in a sungja the young sung begin. And they send the Shawashima Kangal and pay me, don't want to meet someone like you don't want. Tagana Yaka, and then do things out of that, and they can David Chamber do us.
So pure ethics will bring good rebirth in the next life, and also bring sort of this attractiveness to oneself in this life, that everybody who sees you somehow, feel attracted to you. I mean, there's some sort of sense of, that positive appeal.
No, that's that. Nime tunas, hedang choice, hedang doing, that hedang doing, and Trome Zebe Quachachans. Garen Sungarisana Hingmangas, that doing Hingma, Tawa Hingma, Senji Hingma, or showing Hingma, that the Hingma yours. Nyamu Hingma.
Nyamu Tawa Semje.
Doing Hingmas.
Two.
Tangares one.
Chick something short. Two Tawa, Semje, Alanumo, Robak.
Nyamu Hingma.
Honey?
And then Senji Hingma restaurant.
The
letting human and do yours. That they don't say yours. Just that they do it to say that human of a teacher doses and when it only human at better, Yalani. Be any correction. That took me to say.
Next, the great Adisha advises us that at this time of what are called drags or degenerations, nigma, there is tremendous what are called sense of anger or hatred. So at this time, we should put on the armor of patience so that we don't, get angry. So explanation given on this line is, in Buddhism we talk about what is known, I don't think in English it conveys that much sense, but then I don't have a better alternatives at this point. It's called the nigma, the 5 drags, or the 5 degenerations. Sometimes we use the... So we're talking about either degenerated time, while the degeneration works with the time, but not with some other things. That's the issue in the translation. So degenerated time, and or the drags that related with the time, that is related with the delusions, because the delusions are on rampant, rise up, at our time, and drags related with wealth or resources, and drags related with sentient beings, how many we have got, and drags related with the view, tawa, the philosophical stance or the viewpoint. Okay. So these are sometimes translated as 5 degenerations related to time, philosophical view, or the viewpoint, I should say perspective perhaps, I shouldn't say philosophy, sentient beings, delusions, and resources, 5 of them. So because of this, the way it is worded in Tibetan is Dowa, means they are all like functioning like crazy. All these things are, big rise up. So at this time, it's possible that there's so much hatred and anger, and so we need to put on the armor. We need to cultivate patience.
So, control sacho. The Hanaing Tadu Sechu. That the nigger pay to the Zeba Gomni, Zebe Quachet Churchington, Zeba Gomgata.
No.
Tell Zeba Sentati, Zeba Gomgres canon.
So in other words, that we are more sort of vulnerable to the influence of delusions. It's almost like there is the anger ready to pop up. There is the attachment ready to just burst. And any other forms of delusion that you just mentioned it. So this is such a time we are living through. So it's very important for us to cultivate patience, to be able to deal with such delusions and to calm them down. So the metaphor that's being used here is put on the armor of patience. This is like maybe in the ancient times when people go to the battles, they put on the armor. So the whole purpose is so that when the enemies shoot arrow and throw the spears, you are protected. So in today maybe you're wearing the ballistic vest or the bulletproofs, vest, and so you don't get shot and killed. So in the same way, if we put on the armor or the vest of the patience, then others may get mad and crazy and whatever they do, or we are not going to be hurt and we are not going to be damaged, or we ourselves might not lose temple because of this armor we put on. Okay.
Then control could change it like a shesatan. The Hanayi. So any piece of non-judicial, then Tonka Judita. Because I'm now dirty. So they control that Kadu, the Kadimian Sani, Chatoya Mariste.
So as Krishna is giggling over this matter, he said, we need to put on this vest or the armor of patience all the time. Doesn't matter, you're at home, because we never know when the anger might pop up. Or we go to the grocery shopping, we might go mad there, so we don't want that. Or somebody might get mad with us. Or we go to work, we go to school. Whatever we're doing, we need to, put on that armor so that we feel protected.
Yes.
So I think that's a good, point to stop for today.
But the mark the you go to couple years was.
Yes.
Then these any Quachati need that saying Kadina Quanchogres.
And Geshe says that, with the ordinary armors or the protections, the protective gears that one can put on, they have weight, tremendous, some of them, okay? So uneasy to go and walk around. But this does not have any weight. It is a weight-free kind of an armor that we can put on and go to bed at night and sleep well and get up and, put it on and go to work and function as we do. So this is a great kind of an armor.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, we want to have a little bit of time for question and answers. Anybody?
5 minutes.
5 minutes of question and answers. If you're sitting behind or something, just yell at me because I don't see you. Yeah? Good one. Yeah. Mimila, yeah.
I just wonder, it's just that you said catch emotional vows for months and months.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was Vinaya.
Yeah, I think the Vinaya is the sort of the source for the Patimoksha vows. Vinaya is where we talk about all kinds of ethics. Patimoksha is that particular name for the monastic vows.
Oh,
yes. Yes.
When the Lord Atisha teach the Tibetan, he said that the best meditation is mind without claim. Because of the English word, I don't know exactly what he meant by saying a mind without claim. Can you ask the Geshe to highlight it a little bit for us?
What is it? Mind without claim?
Yes.
Without pretension.
Huh?
In the text it says without pretension.
Oh, without pretension. Oh, yes, without pretension. Okay, that's what he meant.
In
Right.
some word, in some book it said claim.
Oh, I see. All right. Tanda Genji George Sundina Laya and Sam Yuju Mabachess on Sunshas Rawagi. Same Yuju Mab the Yuju Mab Sunjava. The Tonda of the Carson, the engine of Zamzam from the Jordan, which is a core Tata Ling Memoke.
You mentioned
Yuju Mab.
you are the your magic, you magician, thinking over than the eating suit as a king do it.
No.
No.
I think last time when we dealt with that, first maybe I should just say that the Tibetan terms Yoju that has two syllables, and those are two different things, and I think Shila will explain it. But if you take it together, there's a sense of deception. So we should not have a deceptive mind, meaning we want to cheat and deceive others. Okay. So one's mind should be without or free of deception. You did it, Chipson.
Take the end to some joke. Then Changbale, that didn't get in June. Changbala and Negatin in that church on the game of the years. Just the Kurang Hinguamaris. And then one Changba, Changba Chimbos, Mehis Malabashe. That the any payation, the land landing on Changba, Changba Chimbos, lovely.
An example of a deceptive mind that is given kind of in some sense a classic one, which is in the Vasubandhu's Treasure of Knowledge. It is said that once Brahma was asked a question about Dharma, but the Brahma's response was, "I am Brahma and Brahma is great." Okay, that's what he said. So now that is an issue where he did not answer the question. Instead of saying, "I don't know answer to your question," but he just simply said, "I'm Brahma and Brahma is great." So there was some kind of a deception involved in the answer. So that's what we call Yuju in Tibetan. So like in our interactions with other people, if others ask us questions, the other side of that is honesty, right? If we have an honest answer, we say, okay, this is what it is. But if you don't have the answer, just don't confuse people or, go round about it. We can just simply honestly say, I'm sorry, I don't have answer for what you're asking me. So this deceptiveness or the deception is the other side of the honesty, which contradicts honesty. If we are being honest, we are not deceiving others. But if deceiving others, we are not being honest. We are dishonest. See? Any other questions? Yeah.
In talking about karma, the causes and effects of karma, is there a mathematical equation for karma? One that's very complicated and we don't understand as unenlightened beings. But
what do you mean by mathematical equations?
Well, when I think of karma, if you're patient and kind, then in your next birth, therethere's an equal sign. These things will happen. So that sounds like math to me. So I was just wondering.
Yeah. Tanda ngazo le jumde gi ta le nyamba chene debu nyamba ta sangbo debu sangbo sa chero ba ge te jide ko ta le jumde sen sira gi ta chi chi ni kasol gen dum da chi chi ni nyot sa shu tu sro ba ta kona zi su da gi yam she gen pa na kon zi na le ya den de yung do kan ni da ni do na shi de slo gro ba ge ni na chi chene le ke ba pa na so ba kon be na so be debu di yung gre se pa si khadu de yo ro so
ta de pa na mi so lu be na rang che rong bu ma ta 아니 이제 담보에 나온 소용은 다 됐는데 여러스트. 이게 security. 찔리 해그리스트.
So Geshe-la basically I told him, sort of mathematical stuff, and he said, yeah, he thinks there is like, how we talk about, if we practice generosity, that equals to, obtaining resources. That means you will be rich or have resources. And if you practice patience, that translates into, this is where we probably have the beauty or the attractiveness. And if we don't lie, then that translates or equal to people's trust in you. If we protect somebody's life, that equals to prolonging your own lifespan.
That is a loss of Chagina. Chagju Kinki, Tendel Chagju Mabuchevi, Shashaman met them, but he was Chabi in there.
But then if we put that in the, sort of in a broader perspective, let's say in this life, one has a tendency to lie a lot, so people start to lose trust. But in next life, for whatever other reasons, one is telling the truth all the time, now still people don't trust you. Okay, so that's that implication from this kind of lying in this lifetime. So then one is kind of baffled. Why are people not, now trusting me? I'm telling the truth all the time, but that's sort of implication.
The mathematical mistake here your was. Karma result legal.
So Geshe-la thinks that in the mathematical calculation sometimes we could make errors, so that's why we have called error variance, somewhere, So there's the +3, -3, whatever the equation, we have to do that. But in some sense, karma is very strict and definite. If you do this particular thing, it will definitely bring that, provided that it's not, counteracted by some other agents. It's a very definite. And law of karma never goes error. They may make mistakes.
The execution, the laying up a sunny, the any late for Jayak, Gawaya put your drubbing, so called Namitimonyo Chagris.
Some of the exception cases is like, if we do a bad karma, because the bad karma produces bad result, that's a definite thing. There is no error variance of any kind. It just is for sure. But the only exception is, so before that karma produces its bad result, if we can intercept it or intervene it with some practice and antidotes, then this karma gets purified and then you don't have the result. That's an exceptional case.
Very good.
So very good questions, and we'll stop there today. And I have some requests to make here. We have been requested to say prayers for 4 people. 2 passed away, and they are Mary Grigoric, passed away at 74. Dick Wright passed away at 92. And we have 2 people who are ill, means not feeling well, Van Carlson and I think Pete Miller. So we request for prayers from everyone. Let us dedicate collective marriage for the flourishing of Dharma, the source of benefits and happiness throughout the universe. May His Holiness the Dalai Lama and all other holy beings, wherever they are in any part of the universe, live long and be successful in fulfilling their visions benefiting sentient beings. May spiritual communities throughout the world and spiritual practitioners from all traditions remain healthy, harmonious, and be successful in fulfilling their spiritual aspirations. May this and other world environments be free of all kinds of unwanted pains and problems, and beings find peace, happiness, prosperity, and spirituality. In short, we dedicate our positive energy for all kind mother sentient beings to be free from the fears and dangers of two types of mental obscuration to personal nirvana, and obscuration to omniscient state, and may we all reach complete enlightened state quickly.
Amen.